So on that same topic of your craft, do you listen to your own
Yeah, we
show?
don't really do tape crawls where we'll sit and listen minute by minute, but I'm always there checking myself. And I'm always listening to little bits of the show. Sometimes on the way home, I'll download either the whole show or a particular segment. And I would tend to listen to either the parts that I thought went really well or the parts that I thought went really badly, so I can learn from what happened there, either to repeat something, build on something. Oh, that kind of question worked, that kind of interaction worked, that kind of humor worked, or the opposite, how did I mess this up so that it came out sounding all awkward or flat, and what can I do in a similar situation differently.
And on a similar topic, do you have role models? Do you have heroes in the media business, especially radio or otherwise?
Well, coming up, as a teenager, like my friends, I was listening to music on the radio. I also found myself getting more curious about people who were talking on the radio, as a high school student. So I was listening to people like Gene Shepard on WOR, who was really a storyteller. He wasn't a news talk guy. He was, a fabulous magician with the medium of radio, telling stories about his childhood, about being in the Army. Sometimes it would get political. He definitely had a social commentator, culture critic kind of edge to him, and might talk about anything that he was seeing around the city. And he really fascinated me. Also some of the talk radio that was political. One of the rock stations, the old WPLJ, when they were an album rock station, they had a talk show from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Alex Bennett.
And you were
and I was sometimes awake, we're talking the college years here,
okay.
and so I was an Alex Bennett fan. I listened to Steve Post on WBAI in the middle of the night and some of those other folks, and I was like, wow, there's an intersection here between and sometimes they would play music as well, because those were talkers on music stations, and they would play music interspersed with their talking. And even the old WNEW FM, which I was listening to coming up, which a lot of my friends were listening to just as a music station, I was really noticing the hosts, the DJs, Jonathan Schwartz, who's here to this day playing classic American song. At that time he was playing album rock, and he would do these raps in between. He would comment on things. He would tell stories about the musicians. He would tell stories about the Red Sox, which he happens to be obsessed with.
Mm-hmm.
He would tell, he would say something political. And the other people on that station too, Roscoe, Scott Muni, Dave Herman, they were like tapped into the politics. They were tapped into cultural stuff outside the actual rock tunes that they were playing. And all that stuff, for some reason, really spoke to me. So those are my early heroes, and I knew that I wanted to do some combination of news, music, culture, talk in radio, even when I went to college.
Mm-hmm. And even when you went to get a public health degree, is that accurate or is that not?
Yeah. Well, so the way that came about was, first I really thought I wanted to be like one of those DJs I was just describing, to really have a music show, but where I could also talk and be sort of an artist who spun records by putting interesting sets together of things that musically or lyrically made sense together and created, artistic sets, and who could say interesting things in between that. And I actually got a job like that out of college at, that style commercial FM rock station in Albany, WQBK FM, and I was incredibly fortunate to get that show. And so right out of college I was able to get a job like that. Incredibly lucky to be able to land, because how many jobs like that are there in the world? At WQBK FM in Albany, where I'd gone to college, undergrad at SUNY there, and you had to do 6 days. So in addition to this 5-day-a-week music show that I had, I said, well, what weekend shift do you want to do? I said, well, how about this? Can I come in on Sunday nights at midnight and just open the phones and do a talk show for 3 hours? And to my shock, and delight, they said yes. And the reason was they needed, in those days, public affairs credit with the FCC in order to retain their license. They don't need that anymore. There was deregulation during the Reagan years that ended the requirement for that. So I was lucky enough that those regulations were still in effect, and they let me, kind of cut my teeth as a green kid on a overnight talk show. And I found eventually that I was putting more time and mental energy into my 1 hour, one night a week, middle of the night talk show than I was into my 5-day-a-week music show. And the format was closing in on me anyway, because that was a particular moment there in the 70s when there was this kind of open, you can be an artist as a DJ, album rock thing. So all of this was happening at the same time. And I realized, okay, I should go into broadcast journalism, per se. So I went to grad school for journalism at that time.